Women, girls, and the entire Gambian population, of course including our development partners. The 8th of March, all of us would remember, every year, is commemorated as International Women's Day. Worldwide, of course, with the objective of showcasing the significant achievements and challenges encountered, particularly in the promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. This year's International Women's Day celebrations will be commemorated, of course, in the Gambia in Brikama, West Coast region, from Thursday the 24th to Saturday the 26th of April 2014. The event will be marked with a 2-day conference and a colorful march past, mainly by female security forces, school children, the National Women's Council, the Gambia Women's Federation, public and private sector institutions, and of course grassroots women's associations as well, and cultural entertainment, among others. The national theme for this year's celebration is Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance in the context of equality for women being progress for all, which is indeed relevant and apt, we'll all agree, as it takes into account progress made, particularly in the socio-economic empowerment of women and girls. However, a focus on Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance also gives us an opportunity to reflect as a continent on African self-reliance, particularly Africa's self-reliance trajectory, and the need, of course, to demystify and popularize our history and our shared values and norms. It is also meant to ensure that we put Africa's development in its proper socio-cultural and socio-economic perspectives, and of course glorious gender perspective as well. Fellow Gambians, fellow women and girls, and all others resident in the Gambia, 50 years on after independence and self-rule, Africa enjoys its liberation and its unity, of course, as well as unprecedented economic development and rise. More and more democracy, good governance, peace as well as stability, just to name a few of our achievements as a continent. Pan-Africanism at its inception was more than just a search for racial or geographical identity. Rather, it was also a strong refutation of the mindset that defined Africa and Africans from the perspective of the historical experience of slavery, for example, colonialism, neocolonialism, and racial discrimination, among others. Rather, Pan-Africanism continues to be the affirmation of the rich cultural heritage of the African societies and the importance of achieving freedom and continental unity, among others, and of course maintaining a rich value system as a continent and cultural heritage, among others. Since independence, the concept of Pan-Africanism has continued to evolve, measured by the challenges as well as the real aspirations of the African continent. During the independence period, this ideology enabled Africans to overcome domination, for example, and oppression by ending colonialism and apartheid, among others, in the continent. The possibility, of course, of rapid socio-economic transformation of the continent, and indeed transformation for all, was another goal promoted from early days. Given our demographic dividend with potentials to propel economic growth and sustainable development, Africa must build confidence in itself first and foremost. It must build confidence in itself, as well as in its ability and obligations to be the driver of its own destiny. Africans must look forward and indeed look back as well into their past to create their future, acknowledging our previous mistakes and of course learning from them, but also celebrating our successes and building upon them. Fellow Gambians, fellow women and girls, today, as we debate Pan-Africanism and the African Renaissance, 50 years on, after the OAU was formed, we have to ask some tough and soul-searching questions about our dream for Africa for the next 50 years towards 2063, and the Pan-Africanist norms and values that continue to inspire us as a continent. The establishment of the Pan-African Women's Organization of Power in 1962, indeed we'll all agree, has played a significant role in building African unity and solidarity among women during a crucial period, particularly in our continent, in the struggle for political emancipation. It is important to note that power preceded the OAU, in fact, perhaps in the same way that the Women's Charter preceded the Freedom Charter. We must therefore try and recognize our lost glory and make Africa once again work on both the male as well as the female legs. In ancient Africa, before the advent of colonialism, women wielded a lot of power, we'll all agree, in matrimonial setups, particularly in the social and economic spheres. In fact, there were a lot of female rulers in Africa then. Fellow Gambians, fellow women and girls, we must, as a priority, engender, or genderize, as we always say, decolonize the African minds as well as the economies. We must also act with greater speed and, of course, a sense of urgency with the equal participation of women to create a free trade zone area, or free trade zone areas if it is the whole continent, geared towards an African common market, create the 5 regions as building blocks of the Union, and facilitate the free movements of peoples and goods. Our greatest resource, of course, we will all agree, is our people, especially our young population. That's the demographic dividend that we should capitalize on, both males and female, whose energies as well as creativity and courage must drive Africa's development and its renaissance as well. Investment in their education and training, and more generally in science, technology, research and innovation, therefore, remains critical to Africa's modernization and development in all its spheres. In this regard, the role of the African males and females, particularly those in business, that is business entrepreneurs and professionals, must be strengthened, and of course including civil society organizations and grassroots, among others, so that they too contribute to the Pan-Africanist vision. Our women and girls must be empowered as critical partners to our continental development. Fellow Gambians, fellow women and girls, partners in development, all others resident in the Gambia. Inequality for women and girls is not only inimical to personal development and well-being, but also undermines national development itself. After all, they constitute more than half the population. Reducing or eliminating inequalities in society is therefore critical to improving the socio-economic well-being of both men, women, as well as the rest of society, including girls. Gender inequalities can be manifested, of course, in equal access to social services, wage employment, educational opportunities, the exercise of one's basic human rights, control over productive resources, as well as institutional support services, and freedom to make informed choices and decisions. Addressing gender inequality, therefore, and inequity requires the taking of a holistic, rights-based approach to development by all stakeholders concerned. Against this backdrop, therefore, the government of the Gambia, under the dynamic and visionary and indeed able leadership of His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh, a renowned Pan-Africanist, no doubt, has recognized the potentials of all, including women and girls, and has since accorded high priority to gender equity, equality, and the empowerment of women and girls. This is clearly manifested in the positions, for example, of responsibility that are being held by women